Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sandra Cruz Unfiltered. My name is Sandra Cruz, and today I'm going to talk about karma. Karma, together with ancestral and past life trauma, can really affect our lives in ways that we don't even realize. And so today I want to bring some clarity to what karma really is, how it can affect us, how we can release it, and how we are actually creating it right now. So I do hope you will find a lot of value in this video. For me, it's a very interesting subject because on my healing journey, I've also released a lot of karmic issues, and the process is truly fascinating. All right, let's get started. First of all, there are two types of karma. There is justified karma, and there is unjustified karma. Justified karma is karma that is, well, justified. Karma means every action has a consequence. Meaning, if you were not very nice in one of your past lives, chances are good that you created karma that you are now unraveling, possibly in this life, or not really unraveling, but that is still haunting you and making your life difficult. Unjustified karma is karma that you thought you deserved, but what happened was really an accident. Which means in this case, trauma is unjustified because whatever happened was not your fault. Let's look at unjustified karma for a second. Let's imagine, for example, in a past life, you were about 12 years old and you had a younger sibling. You two were playing by a creek, unsupervised. You were throwing rocks in the water, and at the steep slope, your little sibling slips, hits her head, falls into the water, and drowns. That would cause unjustified karma because whatever happened, you couldn't have seen coming. Whatever happened was an accident. Whatever happened was not your past life's fault. But maybe your past life, your past self, took it on as I should have taken better care of my sister. I should have been there. I should have watched. I should have jumped in behind her. Or maybe even your parents, friends, other family members were blaming your past life. That causes not only intense trauma, but unjustified karma. Now, how can that present itself in this life? And here's where it gets interesting. Unjustified karma usually presents itself with situational anxiety or panic attacks, meaning in that situation, it could cause fear, panic when you are by the ocean or I don't know, by a river, by a lake, and you see children playing. That could cause the karma to come to the surface. Because the trauma that happened in a past life was so intense that your soul took it on. It's attached to your soul. And that's why this karma has been carried down or up to the next life. And it's how it can show itself. Now, the interesting thing is, once you release that karma, I do that during my ancestral healing circles, where when the karma comes up, we see if we can release it. And once we release it, it takes about a couple days and you won't remember. It's gone because we healed whatever needed healing from a past life. And I think this is truly fascinating, how something so intense, just like that, fizzles out because we healed the energetic attachment to it. Now, with justified karma, it's a little different. We can't just go in and release it. A lot of times, we can't even do anything about it because it's just in the middle of playing itself out. And as long as this karma is playing itself out, we can't touch it. We can put into the Akashic records that once it worked itself out, all the remnants are being released. Justified karma could come from many different things. For example, one that I released from my own Akashic records yesterday was about value, how others value what I have to offer. I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2013. I had a business called Serafina Faye, where I created spiritual and healing jewelry. I went to local events and offered my jewelry and tarot readings and Reiki and all of that. But I always felt like a charlatan, like I was selling something that didn't help. So yesterday, that sensation came back up, which was very interesting because this was years ago. And so I looked into my Akashic records, and lo and behold, there was karma from a previous lifetime where I actually was, or my past self was actually making tinctures and medicines and all of that. And that didn't really hold up to what I promised I would do, my past self. And so I created karma because I was lying to people. Now, this is not intense trauma as if I had been a mass murderer, for example. That would be a whole different category of releasing the karma. But this karma could be released. And so I did. And the interesting thing is trying to tap back into that. It's almost impossible because it's just fading out. And anyways, this was just one of the stories of my karma release that I can still remember. That is so powerful. Just think about it. Something that could cause a panic attack all of a sudden is gone. And the same thing happens within your life right now. That's what trauma healing does. Once you release everything from every angle, it's just gone. I talked about this in my last video. The moment trauma disappears. That was the very subject. Once trauma is no more. Now, how can you create karma in this life? As I said in the beginning, every action has a consequence. The consequence is karma, whether justified or unjustified. Let's think about unjustified karma because most of my clients struggle with that. I see it playing out all the time. Let's say in this lifetime, you were abused by a family member time and time again. And as you are living in the story, you are doing the best that you can with the tools that you have. But as you grow older and you start looking back, maybe you have started healing, you start looking at what you did. And you start blaming yourself, you start punishing yourself. You start telling yourself, why didn't I do anything? Why didn't I push him away? Why didn't I tell anyone? Why did I not say no? That is self-punishment. And if you really start believing that all of this was your fault, that can create unjustified karma. Because the fact is, it never was your fault. You did the best you could with what you had. Because when you were living in the story, you did not know that this family member or friend or anyone would do it again and again. But now you did. Now you do. Because now you can see the whole story. But going back and blaming yourself for something that you had no control over, that's self-punishment. And that creates unjustified karma. Now, justified karma is created when you are doing something that is not very nice, that is bad. I mean, not every action is going to create karma. Let's make that very clear. It has to be something very intense. Just as unjustified karma comes from very intense trauma. And when you think about how your life has unfolded so far, and if there are any aspects where you could have created karma, don't you think it would be so much better to take care of this now before it actually turns into a future life issue? Because everything that happened in this lifetime is still pretty prominent in your mind. So if you heal that now, your future self doesn't have to deal with that because it's already done. That will make life so much easier for your future self, don't you think? And it makes it easier, especially because your future self will not have to start looking into past lives and figuring out why on earth they're so triggered right now when nothing makes sense. That is why healing is so important. Not only do you release the trauma, the karma, and everything else from your life, from past lives, but you make life so much easier for your future lives. I don't know about you, but I find this subject of karma so fascinating because it just ties everything together. And I think it's really cool, actually, how you release the karma and the image is so prominent in your mind. And then from one day to the next, it's just gone. Now, as you release the karma, there is something happening, and it's called the emotional hangover. I think I made a video about that a few months back. An emotional hangover means that all the emotions that were attached to the karma or the trauma that you released have to come up to leave as well. Because there's so many aspects, so many parts connected to this one karmic event that need to leave. And because you're the one releasing it, it has to release through you because it was attached to your soul and it has to release from your soul so your soul is free of that lifetime. And then the trauma is completely gone. The karma is completely released. And then we simply forget about it because there's nothing linking us to this past life anymore. Anyways, if you feel that you have karma carrying around with you, or if you feel there's something that triggers you and you do not know where this is coming from because it doesn't make any sense, because nothing remotely to how you're feeling ever happened in your life, I invite you to my Divine Ancestral Healing Circle, which will be held on September 23rd. I will place a link to sign up below this video. If you would like to have a private session with me to go through your ancestral line and see if anything is there from ancestors, generations, past life, I will add that link to it as well. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And always remember, trauma is not a life sentence. You have the power to heal. Bye.